How to Trade Forex, Lecture 18. And in this lecture we're going to look at trading the news. This is extremely important because it's news that drives prices. And that applies to almost any market that's traded today. So let's get into trading the news. So let's get into it. News trading. News drives the market. And news basically comes in two formats. Scheduled news, which is economic news, for example, interest rates, gross domestic product growth rates, retail sales, house building, all sorts of things. The other type of news is unscheduled, world events, and both of these affect how we trade. News affects and drives market prices. It's actually the main thing that drives prices, and therefore we can trade better if we know what news affects prices and what the relationship is between that news and the prices. So we're now going to take a look at news trading. And as we said, news is extremely important because news determines prices. It's what moves the market. And there are three different types of news. We've got scheduled news, such as the announcement of an interest rate or a level of unemployment. We've got unscheduled news. That could be a natural disaster or some political event. And we've just got general news about the economy and what's going on in the world. All three of these can affect prices in most markets, including the Forex market. So the first thing is to find out what scheduled news is coming out when and how it may affect the market. So I find my news generally from this website. It's www.forexfactory.com. And looking at this screen when it comes up like this, you'll see there's quite a lot of information on it. And we're looking at one particular day, which happens to be a Wednesday, 25th of July. And going across the screen, we'll see that there are, in fact, first of all, a time of day, and that's all based around this time of day, which is the time of day when I was recording this. We've then got a currency and an impact level. We've then got what the actual news is, and we've also got some detail of the news, which you can press on that and get more information. Then importantly here, we've got a chart if you want to see it, but the main thing I'm looking for is this. What is the forecast and what is the actual? And the forecast is extremely important because it's the difference between the actual and the forecast that generally determines the impact on prices. The time then is set here, and you need to bring this in line with the time wherever you happen to be in the world. To do so, just double-click on the time that you see in front of you, at the head of the red arrow in this case. That would bring a screen like this, and that screen, you then match this just by clicking on it with the time on your own computer. You can also put on or off daylight saving time, depending on where you are, and set your time zone. I don't think I was actually in Bogota or Lima when I set this, but there we go. You can also input a format. And to match in with our trading requirements, set the start of your week as a Sunday. So we need to filter out some of this news. There's just too much going on for us here. And to do that, we use the filter, which is up here. We press on it and a new screen comes up. And we get the option here to add or remove information. Well, first of all, I'm going to get rid of the level of impact that is shown as white, and yellow and orange, and just have left ticked the red. So high impact news is all I'm interested in. On the event types, I've left all of them in, but you could possibly take out bonds, for example, but you probably need all of them. And then we've got which currencies I'm interested in. And I'm only interested in the euro, the GBP, and the US dollar. If you're following or trading others, then you can add them in here, no problem. And that will then, when we apply the filter, give us a very different looking screen. So our new screen now looks like this, and what we've got here are only red impact news events, and only from Europe, the UK, and also the US. They're specific to the currency rather than the country. I've set the time to match my computer, 2:54. There are 3 items of interest on the news today. 2 of them already came out this morning at 9 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. where I am, and the other one is due out in about 5 minutes' time at 3 o'clock. First of all, we've got the German IFO, which is basically the business climate. That's not going to affect the pound-dollar relationship too much, but it'll be worth watching. And as it turns out, there was a significant difference between the actual and the forecast. And if you trade in the euro, that would have made a big difference on the price. The next item of news is the pound, and it's the preliminary GDP, gross domestic product, comparing quarter on quarter. And as we can see, there's been a big difference here. Instead of minus 0.2 as was forecast, the actual has turned out to be minus 0.7. That's a big difference and would certainly affect prices. The next news item, because it's not actually quite due yet, is shown as this green circle. And if we click on that green circle, then we would actually refresh the screen. And if we do that at just before, a few minutes before the news is due out, then when the news is actually due out, we'll see it come and appear there. If not, you might have to double click on it when the news is actually announced. The items of news of particular interest to us, and that's because they're the ones that move the market, are employment and unemployment figures, retail sales, interest rates, including anything that may affect interest rates, gross domestic products, that's really the growth rate of the countries behind the currencies, and also the manufacturing and service industry output levels. So is manufacturing and is service growing or shrinking? And then we've got anything to do with inflation. And inflation in this respect is the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. There are then three main ways of trading schedule news. The first of these is to put a trade on, I've said here 5 minutes, but a few minutes before that news is released. This strategy is used to take advantage of a news release setup where a bullish surprise and directional spike, call that an upward spike, is somewhat possible, but a bearish and downward spike is close to impossible. And of course that could be the other way around. It could be where there's a bearish surprise and downward spike possible, but a bullish surprise and upward spike close to being impossible. So identifying those opportunities requires a good understanding of the scheduled news event itself and the circumstances prevailing at the time of the event. It really isn't something that I would recommend that anybody should undertake at an early stage in their trading career. A second strategy would be to put a trade on soon after the news is released. But based on statistical or spreadsheet analysis, the probabilities for directional price strikes are quantified and then traded. When the news is significantly different from forecast, we can use a pending order strategy to take advantage of this situation. That is, we could place two pending orders, expecting only one to be triggered and then the other one to be cancelled when it's not triggered. So again, we're taking a position above and beyond the current price in case there is a directional price spike, because most of those price spikes are then quickly reversed, and by having our limit order in place, we'd be trying to take advantage of it. The timing on this is extremely difficult, and again, it's not one that you're going to use until you are a seasoned trader with lots of experience and lots of practice on your demo account. The third option for putting a trade on to take advantage of the news is to put the trade on after a directional news spike has occurred. And this is by far the easiest and the safest. So when the scheduled news is significantly different from the forecast and a significant directional spike has occurred, we can place a trade in anticipation of the reversal of that directional news-related price spike. And that's how we would do it. Again, watch news coming out, see the effects, see which types of news tends to spike and then to reverse once it has spiked. And then if you feel like having a go at it, practice on the demo account again. And once you've got the hang of it, it's something you might try.